There were many special moments on the tour, occasions which are not likely to happen again. Like the night we dropped in on Dad and Harry Hardy as they were getting ready for bed after a long tour day. These two 440 Squadron members were already in their pajamas, but not too tired to reminisce about the flying days.
I've been wanting to ask you guys, when did you guys first meet each other?
Well, it was when I joined the squadron in October. Harry had been there since August, and he was one of the first ones that gave me a warm welcome to the squadron and put me at ease quite a bit. Another one was actually Ron Dodge, who's a really nice guy, and he was really nice with me, and a couple of days later he was killed. Wow. And Jim Beattie was the flight commander at the time, and normally he gave a new guy a little briefing, but he didn't do that with me. I guess it was probably because he was a little shy, because we delivered papers together at one time and went to the same high school, you know.
Right.
So that was about it. Harry and I, at that point, it just developed into a good friendship, and he was very helpful to me in many ways.
But when did you and I start flying together, Bill?
Well, we were around the time you became flight commander, when you, you started encouraging me to lead blue flight, and you had red and I had blue, and that's when it really got started. And eventually, it wasn't long before you had me leading the show.
Right.
It sent me out leading 8 aircraft, and I got everybody all lined up over the target and echelon starboard, ready to say going down in 10 seconds. He comes roaring up, takes my place, and says, "Okay, short ass, I got it," and he went down and everything.
No, I was strafing a tank, that Tiger tank that you saw down there, and just as I went over the tank, I heard the stud in the tail end, and the part of the tail was gone, and the aircraft kept on climbing up, and I climbed it up, and when I got it up, way up, about 7,000 feet, I tried to land it on a cloud, but every time I got it down below 200, it started to act up. So then I decided that better than try to land, I'd bail out of it. So I pulled the lever and blew the hood and the side out of the machine, and then I took a look at the clock, and it was 178 miles an hour, and that's as slow as I could go and still hold it in line.
Wow.
And then I crawled out the side and slid off the wing and opened my parachute too soon, because I was still doing 150 miles an hour or whatever it was when I got out of there, and it stripped my gloves right down till I just had them on the ends of my fingers here, and ripped the maps right off flush with the top of my flying boots. And then I floated down and landed in an army camp.
But I was sitting there waiting and wondering what was happening, and the phone rang, and the guy said that I was wanted on the phone. So I said hello, and he said, "Hello, is that you, short ass?" And I said, "Yeah, is that you, Harry?" "Yeah." I said, "Well, what's the matter with your voice?" He said, "My parachute strap was too tight."
They seem to have great recall of details of individual missions, underlining the intensity of those days.
Bill, you led the squadron from the end of March all through April in action. Tell us something about that part. How did it go when the war was almost over?
Oh, you mean about the Rhine crossing?
Yeah, right, the Rhine crossing, and you know, you were pushing up there. And tell us something about that, because you were right there.
Well, we were waiting all winter to have the Rhine crossing, and we were softening up the Germans on the other side of the Rhine River, and cutting out rail lines and communications and supplies and all that kind of stuff. We knew things were getting pretty tight, because the Army had been dragging stuff up all night, every night, bringing up pontoon bridges and all kinds of tanks and personnel carriers, and the infantry and the tanks and everything just going by our place all night long. We knew that that was in the making, And along with that, we still had to keep in the dusk patrolling the river for fear the Focke Wolves would come in and knock out the bridges, any bridges that were left at Arnhem and Nijmegen and so on. And one day we were all ordered to come down to the dispersal, and there was a lot of top brass around, and they were announcing it in the morning, before dawn, that the gliders would be coming across, and the paratroopers, and so on and so forth. And we were put on, our flight was on cab rank. That's the case where you've got a grid map, and they've got on the ground they've got an identical grid map, and if they're having any problems, they point it out on your grid, you read it, and check it with your map, and they tell you what the problem is. Guns knocking out the gliders, or picking off the paratroopers as they're coming down. So I got one, and it was a gun emplacement that was really causing a lot of havoc, and the paratroopers being shot in the air and the gliders breaking up in the air. So there was 4 of us, and we made a couple of passes, and they knew we were there. There's lots of stuff coming up at us, and I went back to base, and when Commander Grant was right out there when I was getting out of my aircraft, and he said, "Bill," he said, "some brigadier general had just called, and he wanted to speak to me personally because that gun was taken right out of position, and they were coming down a lot better now." So I was, I thought, well, that's great.
What was that other one you were telling me about where you wanted to check something out?
Oh yeah, that was over Winterswick. It was a big railway marshalling yard, and we were flying over, and Harry wasn't saying anything, and I said, "Harry, look at all those trains down there and the tracks and so on. You should take a jump at them." And he said, "Well, okay, you go down and I'll fly cover up here for you." So I brought my flight down, and the flak was just, you could walk on it. It was really heavy. It was coming up from everywhere. And we hold the old button down, and I was hitting the tracks in the train, and I don't know how I ever, I come down and I could see trees on both sides, and I was over boxcars. You can imagine how close I was to them. And I just leveled out and got out of town, and then went and joined the flight and went back. It was really scary.
So what'd you say to Harry when you got back?
That's not what he said when he got back. When he was down there, he tried to calm me down, and I said, "You entertain me, boy."
Yeah.